Cue the cheesy podcast music.
Welcome to Megafest, where we don't just manifest, we Megafest. I'm your host, Megs Malloy. I'm creating a community of silly and soulful working moms who are mostly happy, but know they're capable of more. More self-love, more self-esteem, more self-trust, more calm, joy, natural highs, more magic in the world, and more laughter. Each week, me and my guests will bring you tips and tricks on how to make the most of your one precious life. And we're going to make them effective and efficient because ain't nobody got time for that. I believe in you. I see the light in you. I want you to shine your light. I want you to become all that you're capable of. So let's hang out. Let's Megafest together. Episode 31. Yeah, we're getting into our 30s now. And you know what happens when somebody gets into their 30s? They are just so much more wise and confident. And watch out, podcast world, here we come. We are moving and shaking. And today we actually are kind of moving and shaking in a way because our guest is Whitney Dawn Pyles, and she is a somatic healing coach. Oh my God, so perfect. And I just got done editing this episode, and I have such an avidity for it. Yes, avidity, meaning extreme eagerness or enthusiasm. Oh my gosh. Let me just say, in this episode, I did not tell Whitney enough times how brilliant she was or is, because she is. She made so many great points. She had so many modalities that moms can use on the go to calm their nervous system, drop into their bodies. And we know that when we get out of our head and drop into our bodies, that is where life is slower, it's less chaotic, and you're just more in the present. And as Whitney mic dropped, that is where life is happening, in the present. So might as well be here. Some things I want you to keep an ear out for. These were things that I was super avid about. In around the 20-minute-ish time, she gives us an example of an exercise we can do with our emotions, and it's called focusing. And whoo, buddy, listen to that one. Pay special attention to that. I'm going to go back and write down what she said because it's so helpful. I haven't done it yet, but I can just only imagine. And then at about the 30-ish minutes, 35-ish minutes, Whitney talks about some practices you can do on the go to help calm your nervous system. Things like body percussion or shaking or dancing. Or another cool thing that she told us about, which is called orientation. Pay attention to all these things. They're so good. And I may not have given them the credit they are due in the moment when I was with her, but going back and editing the episode, I'm just like, oof, wow. Good job, Whitney. So I bet you're wondering, who is Whitney? Well, I met her at a networking event for soulful business owners, and she is a certified somatic coach and human design guide. Here's her bio. She believes that when we can learn to trust our inner compass, we spend less time in our head and more time in our life, creating space for our desires, pursuing our passions, and prioritizing our needs. Can I get a hell yes? That sounds like realizing popularity, and I am here for it. She believes that learning to make empowered decisions begins with the body. Whitney believes that minimizing the time spent overanalyzing and then questioning our decisions, minimizing that time, allows us to be more joyful, compassionate, and present people, parents, and professionals. I agree. Whitney weaves together a unique combination of intuitive dance, embodied movement, body-oriented coaching, somatic tools and techniques, as well as human design to help others access their embodied wisdom, lean into authenticity, and live with more ease and confidence. She says, you deserve more headspace, heart space, and space for yourself in the world. Hell yeah, girl. Hell yes. I think another thing you will love to hear in this recording is all the beautiful bird songs of Grand Rapids, Michigan. Every time I would stop editing, all the birds would stop. I'd be like, where'd the birds go? They're so beautiful. They're so calming, so soothing. I love hearing birds chirping and singing to each other. All right, what do you say? Let's get into it. Let's hear from Whitney. Yay! Whitney is here. Welcome to Megafest. I'm so happy you're here. Aw.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Aw, well, thank you so much for coming on, because you have so much to teach the person who's listening today, just about somatic healing, listening to your inner wisdom, and trusting your decisions, and we'll get into all of that. But like any good host, I must ask you, what are you having to drink? And by the way, I heard you say you have a lot of drinks in front of you, which we are now calling the beverage goblin. Are you a beverage goblin? Like
100%. Always been a beverage
what's
goblin.
What's your lineup?
It's pretty simple today. Well, I say that. I have a big glass of water, and knowing that I would be asked about what I'm drinking, I got a little bit fancy. So I am drinking a non-alcoholic old-fashioned that I topped off with some blackberry CBD soda.
Ooh, okay.
Cheers.
Now that is cheers. Yay. That is one I haven't heard before. That is definitely, Whitney, that's an original right there. So
Thank
what
you.
what goes into an old fashioned?
Yeah, so it's are they called Bing cherries? Maybe.
Okay.
Cocktail cherries. So a cocktail cherry.
Maraschino cherries.
No, they're the dark guys.
Oh,
so I think I think
okay.
it's a Bing cherry. I should know that. I bartended for 11 years, but it's way back there. So yeah, it's a Bing cherry, we're gonna call it. I have an orange wheel that I squeezed in there, some non-alcoholic whiskey, and I used jalapeno bitters instead of traditional bitters, and then I just topped it off with this wonderful blackberry CBD soda. I had no idea how it was going to taste, but it tastes great.
That is a drink right there. I'm so impressed. Oh my God, girl. Yeah. But if you're listening and not watching, Whitney just, dusted off her shoulders a little bit. Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Let us get some of that great, amazing, I don't know, I was going to call it fairy dust, but just
Yeah, some of that fairy dust. I love that.
Yeah. All right, so in this party that is Megafest, we don't say, what do? We say, what are you famous for?
First of all, I love that question. That's such a wonderful question. I am famous for, I was prepared for this, right? I am famous for getting people into their bodies and helping them to get to a place where they can really let loose and be free in their movement.
Oh, what a gift.
Thank you.
Gift. It really is, because I'm just listening to Joe Dispenza's Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, and he talks about, we are just all energy, and if we can just get into the flow of our energy and leave behind who we are, who we think we should be, all this past and future ping pong that our brains do, and then to be able to just like get into your body in the moment is such a gift, and you help people do that.
I think the biggest part of what you just said is who I think I should be. There's so much of that rolling around, so helping people access the body, just to access the wisdom that's there, but also to access the fun and the celebration and the joy that's in there if they can just let loose into their own flow. What a beautiful way to look at that.
Yes, I have so much avidity for this right now, and so so tell me, there must have been a point when you're like, yes, like this is helping me, and I can help other people with that. So what was that evolution like?
Oh yeah. So I've danced almost my whole life. It's been a constant throughout my life in kind of these darker, more shadowy times all the way through till now. Dance has always been really important to me. And I used to teach hip hop. I actually met my husband in a hip hop class I was teaching, and I used to teach a lot of choreography based classes. And within the past few years, I had this separation from that came out of just this idea that what I was doing, I was helping people when I was teaching choreography to feel confident and to access joy. But what I was also doing was setting them up for a lot of comparison and, putting them in a place where they might feel like they needed to look like me or do the movements like the person next to them. And from that, really this shift into wanting to help people access their own rhythm and their own flow and whatever movement they needed in the present moment to help them move through emotion or embrace their authenticity or practice joy or just be with their emotions and move through and with those emotions. So that's how I got into doing what I do, is just from this place of your body knows what's best for you. How can I help you access that?
Oh, I love it. I love it. That's so great. So, and I mean, we can really kill ourselves with this comparisonitis. It's like so paralyzing.
Yeah, and perfectionism, this comparison, this kind of one size fits all approach I find to be untrue. And so I wanted to move myself out of facilitating that and into facilitating freedom, whatever that means to the person that shows up or the people that show up.
Yeah, okay. Well, our friend who's listening today is definitely going to want to know about this. I want to know about freedom. And I was looking at your website, and there were a few things that right away I was so struck by. Oh, your new website, which is beautiful. Well
thank
done.
You. Oh my gosh, thank you. What a lift. Like this, yeah, my website, just websites, just tech in general. So thank you. Thank you for that.
So you said, trust your inner compass. And to me, I was like, oh, yeah, like, knowing your values and your strengths. But it's also, I think, for you, in your case, more about being in the body and less in our head. So, but what does that kind of mean to you? What is trusting your inner compass, and how do you do that?
Yeah, that's a great question.
I don't know if it's
all
great,
right,
but it's big.
No, it is great, and it's big, and I love it. And this is new language on my website for me, so thank you for challenging me to explain it, because it's really multifaceted to me. So it is about getting out of the mind, and I approach that from a few different ways. One lens is through human design. So I'm also a human design guide, and if you don't know what that is, it's heavily based in astrology. There's also influences in the Chinese I Ching and the Kabbalah tree of life and the chakra system. So it's this amalgamation of ancient wisdoms and sciences, and I have quite an avidity for it. Love it. So
well done, Whitney.
Thank you. I was like, oh man, how am I going to get that in there? But so human design, and this is something that I think at a deep level I believe to be true, even being exposed to this system, before being exposed to this system. But our mind is really meant to be this fun, creative, thoughtful place. Our mind is our external authority in the sense that let's use it to tell stories or to make connections, to discover and research things that interest us. But what happens is, instead of being used for all those things, our mind becomes this receptor for, like what you said earlier, what we should be doing. It becomes a receptor for the conditioning from outside of ourselves. All of these voices from our parents, our family, our in-laws, social media, whatever content we're taking in. It's all these voices kind of telling us what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing, how we should show up, how we shouldn't be. So dropping out of that monkey mind, dropping out of that mental chatter and into our body helps us to listen to the voice or the part of us that really knows what's best for us. And in human design, there's a number of different authorities that someone could be. Most of them are in the body. For example, for me, I'm a splenic authority. My spleen is my seat of intuition. So my decision making is very present moment. It's a knowingness. It's an awareness of what's safe for me. And so listening to this inner voice just cuts down the time that we spend analyzing things over and over and over and trying to rationalize things, and instead allows us to make quicker decisions so that our mind can be left free to be curious and be creative and engage in conversation. So that inner compass, in a sense, is that voice within you that knows. And that might be how you feel about something. It might be what your gut is telling you. It might be what your intuition is telling you. But ultimately, it's that thing that's pulling you forward into the decisions, into the places that are right for you.
Wow, God. So you know it's your spleen because of the human design?
Right. And I think, you have human design is a great map for all that. It's a great blueprint to your energy, and it gives name to that voice. But I find that even when people don't know about their human design or aren't interested in human design, there's still a knowingness. There's still a knowingness of, yeah, when I trust my gut, things really work out. But for whatever reason, even when we know that, we still send things up to the mind and rehash them and rehash them and rehash them and kind of live in this super heady space. And it eats away our time that we could be spending doing a lot more enjoyable things.
For sure, yeah. So for someone who doesn't listen to their body on the regular or drop into their body, how would one go about doing that? Like when you first get a new client and they're a newbie, and how do you show them the ropes of listening to their gut? Because I know, and this is like something that you also mentioned, is being confident in decision making, and that's like self-trust, right? And listening to your intuition. So that's something that a lot of women don't have a lot of practice with, right? We want to analyze it. We want to ask other people, like every 50 people, like for their opinion, or our partner, right? We don't trust our own guidance, inner guidance. So how do you drop into that?
Yeah, and you said we don't have much practice with, which I agree with, but I also think it's, as women, we feel like we don't have permission for. We don't have permission to drop into those places and live through the lens of our body. And I think that's just a construct of highly developed society. So anyways, that was a tangent. But I think most people struggle to drop into their body because we depending on the family you grew up in, but it's my opinion that most of us weren't taught to do that. So I find that movement is the quickest way to do that. Everybody has some kind of movement that they do. Obviously, I grew up dancing, so that's really accessible to me. But most people wake up in the morning and they stretch. Or most people crack their back sitting at their desk, stretch out their back. So everyone has some kind of movement that they do on a regular basis. So that would be the first place that I start. How does your body naturally move? And how can you focus just on that? How can you really be in that movement? So for example, if someone wakes up every morning, they put their feet on the floor and they stretch their arms above their head. How can we just be in that movement? How can we repeat that movement until we're truly focusing on how it feels inside our body? So I had a client recently that really struggled with this, was really up in their head. And so I had them narrate it. at first. You know, I'm stretching my arms above my head, I'm putting them down. I'm stretching my arms above my head, I'm putting them down. And just continuing to do that, and at a certain point letting go of that narration of what they're doing and starting to narrate how it feels. Maybe it feels expansive. Maybe it feels like I'm working out a crink in my neck. Maybe it feels comforting or nourishing. So just learning to identify sensation little by little and then expounding on that.
So it kind of sounds like, being very present in your movement. Is that it? But
yes,
maybe not always too. Maybe letting the movement kind of take you, but separating the body from the mind, or how does that work?
Yeah, I think it's being really present in your movement. So in meditation, the call is to not completely close out the thoughts that are coming in. It's just allowing them to show up and move through. And so the same with movement. I mean, with movement, maybe the thoughts aren't loud or as distracting, but they come, thoughts come, emotions come, and it's that same idea of just letting them come up, acknowledging them, and then allowing them to pass through. And I actually find that when you can get to this place and close down your eyes and just focus on the small movements your body is already making. So for example, maybe you're rocking back and forth just naturally, or maybe you're fidgeting your feet, or maybe you're rubbing your thighs. When you start with that really kind of subconscious movement and build out from there, it becomes easier to not silence thought and emotion, but to allow thought and emotion to pass through you. Does that answer the question?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I'm a big believer in, I think we need to talk more about emotional digestion. And that sounds like it is a way to digest your emotions and let them pass, It's like we can't, if we hold them in, then we're just doing more harm.
Yeah,
like
so
emotionally constipated.
Yes, emotionally constipated. Yes to that, because I've totally been there, and anger has been coming up for me quite a bit, and it's teaching me a lot about my passions and certain things that I want to move forward with in my life. But I'd say anger probably comes up the least for me, and it's actually been in the past 6 weeks coming up a lot. So if I'm making the choice to move my body, like, how can I move angry? How can I be with that and be in that, and eventually likely move out of that through the process of moving or dancing or even just stretching or practicing yoga.
Yeah, and like get the interpretation from it, right? It's here. It's a data point, right? It's telling us something, like you were saying. It's. So what do you think that anger is telling you?
I mean, with my personal experience, there was some anger just around some things that were it was like triggering around my work. Like, it felt like certain, like, maybe language or concepts were being hijacked from me. And what it ended up teaching me is that I have this plan of franchising is not the right word, but basically creating my own movement modality that can be expressed like in its full format as a full like workshop or class, but it'll also be something that like therapists or coaches or healers or just helping professionals can pull bits and pieces from and use in the context of their work with their clients. And for me, that was a 5-10 year plan, and my anger taught me that maybe not. Like, this is something that I should be creating structure around now, because ultimately having that would have given me some protection against the things that I was angry about. So that's what I learned from my anger. But I love the way that you phrased that, because it naturally separated the self from the emotion, right? Instead of I'm angry, it's something in me is angry, and is what is that place? What is that emotion telling me about the actions that myself needs to take.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm sorry you're going through that.
That's okay. It's
Hopefully
great.
It's for a greater good.
I've never been so cool with my anger, so it's just there's a little bit of like an out of body experience with it, and it feels like growth. So thank you. I've welcomed it, and it's teaching me things, and but thank you.
Oh, good. So let's see. Do you feel like we should talk about self-trust a little bit more, or is there like something else that you do with your clients that you want to share with the listener?
Yeah, we can talk about self-trust. I'm trying to think about how I want to phrase this, but it comes off of something we were just touching on. And I'm thinking really specifically about a practice that I do with myself, but I also do with coaching clients. And I'd say, in a sense, I also teach movement workshops. So I do this with people one-on-one. I also do it in a group format. It's effective in a different way in these scenarios. But when I'm working one-on-one with someone, I use a tool that's called focusing. And so focusing is doing just that. It's separating the emotion from the concept of self so that you can really ask that emotion what it needs from you. So it would go something like identifying the emotion, or maybe identifying the sensation, identifying where that emotion or sensation is felt in the body, and just having a conversation with it. Having a conversation about what it wants for you, about what it needs and how it can feel acknowledged, but you can still move forward with some clarity. It blows my mind every time because it sounds really simple, and I think probably from the outside looking in it looks pretty crazy, but it typically works. And what happens is the person who's experiencing it, and I've said client, I love using the term the mover or the thinker or the feeler. So the mover comes back from that experience and opens their eyes, and usually it's with some great nugget of wisdom. The self-trust bit comes in because like that might feel like it came from somewhere else, or like it came from me as the facilitator, but it didn't. Like that wisdom was in you and it came from you, and all it needed was just a little bit of pulling out. It just needed a little bit of attention. And I think when we can realize how much wisdom we already carry in our body, and how much, when we can turn down the conditioning, when we can turn down the outside influences, how much we really do know what's best for ourselves. And I think that is wonderful, right? It's wonderful to trust yourself in that way, but I think that also empowers us. It empowers us to like live a life that we want to live. It empowers us to take action and move forward with confidence, which I think ultimately cuts down the time. You know, it's all cyclical. It cuts down the time that we spend in our head, and it cuts down on the time that we question our decisions, and therefore it clears time for us to spend with ourselves, or spend with our families, or spend doing things that bring us joy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. So two things about that. You know, you're saying it when you're not in your head and like bogged down with trying to process emotions, or, you know, struggling with the inner critic, you make more space for joy and, you know, well, like you're saying, your loved ones. And today I was looking at your Instagram page, and I was looking at that little sweet baby, little Sedona May, your little daughter. She's so cute. She's so cute. And, you know, it's like today I was at my daughter's school because they were there. She goes to a visual and performing arts school, and they had a big performance. And I was talking to some other parents, and they're like, oh, you know, it just goes by so fast. And I'm like, I know. And then when I saw Sedona May today, I was like, oh my God, I remember her when my little Claire, and she's 7 now, you know, and in that amount of time, she'll be 14. And then she'll be whatever. I'm not a mathlete, but she'll be maybe in college. And, you know, it's like if we are stuck in our heads, then we are missing what's right in front of us. These moments right in front of us with our children are so fleeting that it's such a shame for us. I mean, we will have regrets if we don't, come to terms with that. We need to be present so that we don't regret missing our children's childhood.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. And I think that I've felt this way for a long time, but it's just layered it so much to now have this little girl. She's 7 months on Friday, which is blowing my mind. But yeah, it is about that. We have, I think, especially as moms, parents, some people, no matter what they do, entrepreneurs or people that that are working and momming and also trying to make space for themselves, like we have really limited time. So when we have time with that little girl, when we have time with our family or with our partner or with ourself, you don't want to spend that time thinking about the other things on the to-do list. You want to spend that time being present and laughing and having fun and being joyful and playful with whoever, with yourself, with your child, with your partner.
Or even your parents.
With your parents, with anybody. Yeah. I mean, I remember so many times with my mom, like, wishing I was somewhere else. Like, I was wishing I was somewhere else. And I would do anything to get that time back. Because, I mean, that was an issue of priorities for sure. And just kind of in this darker part of my life. But, it can also be when you're just thinking about work or the email that you have to send. I mean, I literally was experiencing that last night. I felt like I had a lot on my plate and I was kind of succumbing to this external pressure and really fixating on my anxieties. And I was missing it. I was missing it. And so I stopped and I just started laughing. I laughed for no reason. I made myself laugh. And then because I was laughing, my 7-month-old daughter started laughing, which then I really started authentically laughing, and we just went back and forth, and it was exactly what I needed.
Yes. Oh, Whitney, that's so beautiful. I'm so glad you were able to do that.
It was so cute. I can't stand it.
I know. I'm crying tears of joy because just even thinking about that is just so great. And that's what it's all about. So, I'm glad, those little tricks are so important. And this is an awesome episode of Megafest, but I'm just going to call a quick TO to tell you about the Soulgasm Society. My mission is to create a community of supportive and uplifting women who want to know how to make their one short precious life all the more joyful, add in some play and celebration, and learn the science behind how do you make your brain happy, all the techniques on how to calm your nervous system, and how to not fly off the mommy hamster wheel, because we can't all stop working and you can't really get rid of your kids for more than 2 weeks. You gotta deal with it. And the best way to make your life happy is from the inside out. If you're not gonna do it for yourself, do it for your kids. They will see a difference. If mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. And there is so much truth to that. So the Soulgasm Society is your answer. Come join us. You can click the link in the bio of my Instagram or the link in the show notes. I can't wait to have multiple simultaneous soulgasms with you. All right, now back to Megafest. And that's another thing I was going to say is that as moms, and I found this for myself, like, these days when you go on vacation, it's not a vacation, it's a trip, because you're still doing all the things and changing diapers and naps and bottles and whatever. But, and especially when they get older and they're running around, it's not relaxing. And I remember being on this vacation. Actually, we were on our way to Sedona, which is your daughter's name. I know. And I was like, my check engine light is on, like not in my car, but in my body. And I was just like, let me just start with, how am I even feeling? Like, let me put a name to it. And that's what you were saying in the beginning, right? Like checking in with that emotion. Like, let's put a name to it. What's it trying to tell us? Like, let's take it out from under the bed and not make it so scary and put it up here. And just even doing that is so helpful.
So helpful. Actually, it reminds me of an experience I had in Sedona. So,
Yes.
Before we landed where we are now, which is Grand Rapids, Michigan, my husband and I traveled for half a year in our camper van. I was just coming out of a pretty high pressure corporate job as the director of training for a sales organization, really kind of very anxious, and we're traveling and it's beautiful and we're going on these wonderful hikes, and it was a really enriching experience, but I also was spending a lot of time worrying about, is this old van going to break down? What happens if we run out of money? What happens if the van breaks up? Like, I was living in this anxiety so much. Like, I'm in Utah, like at the top of a canyon, worrying about things like this. And it wasn't until we got to Sedona, I remember vividly sitting down with a tablet, a tablet you write on, right? Not an electronic tablet, old school. But I sat down with a tablet and I was like, okay, what am I anxious about? Let me just write it on this paper and just kind of reverse engineer it. Like, okay, what if that did happen? Then what? And I remember doing that for about 45 minutes in Sedona and just dispelling these anxieties by just having the courage to, like you said, take them out from under the bed and just look at them, and I think that's a way in which our mind can really be our partner, right? To unravel some of that instead of allowing the mind to just fixate and fixate and fixate and fixate, just bringing it out to rationalize these things that we're feeling, or using our mind to name the feeling and move through it in that way and move it into and out of the body. So I just remember that being really a game changer for me, and maybe why my daughter's name is Sedona. I don't know. It's a great place. Love it there.
It really is. And Whitney, that's kind of like coming to a place of self-trust too. Mm-hmm. It's like, if something does go wrong, I'll be able to figure it out.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I may not have all the answers right now, but it's not so scary because I can trust myself.
Yeah, I think it's a big part of it is self-trust and like realizing that you have the resources within you. So I think it's that, and I think it's a bit of trusting the world too, and trusting life and allowing life to unfold, and knowing that if things do get really shitty, you're supported, right?
Yeah.
And even if that's just by yourself, you're walking on 2 feet, or maybe you're not, but maybe you're standing up straight, or you still have a voice to reach out to people and ask for more support. So there's always something that you can rely on to get you through when things get dark.
Yeah. Oh, that old fashioned is so good.
It's gone.
When I meet you in person, I need you to make me one of those.
I would love to.
Yeah, delicious. So Whitney, what if you are, as most of our listeners are, a busy woman, probably a busy mom. So what is something that you can do on the fly? I mean, the words are not coming out. Dancing as medicine doesn't take very much, right? This average length of a song is 3 minutes. You can do that in your room. You could do it in your car. But what are some other like modalities that people can use on the fly, say they're driving or they're at their desk, to drop into their body and use that somatic healing?
Yeah, I love that question so much, and definitely an advocate of like a 1-song dance party. Even if you're at, I have an AVIDITY for 1-song dance parties. Like, I think when we think about dance, like, we think that it has to be this huge choreographed number. But I just had this vision of someone sitting at their desk and they don't have much time, and so they put on a 2-minute song and they just dance with their fingers, like, and their shoulders, and like, that counts, and that's fun too, and just being able to laugh at that. So definitely what you mentioned, most songs last an average of 3 minutes. But some other things that I like to do, and I don't know about driving with these, but I'll think of one for driving. But certainly if you have limited time getting into your body, I think bioenergetic shaking is really powerful, and especially moving through some bigger emotions. So just starting with your hands, letting the hands and wrists shake, and then letting that shake come up into the arms and into the shoulders and maybe into the head and into the legs, and maybe even shaking your ass, but just tuning into that, just shaking the body. If you don't start with your hands, another good way to start that is just standing flat on your feet and kind of driving your heels down, like tapping your heels to the ground, and then just feeling the vibration that creates in your body and following that vibration. So that's another way to get into that practice. I personally love body percussion, even sitting at a stoplight or sitting at your desk, just bringing hands to your thighs. And maybe there's a song on, maybe it's your heartbeat, maybe it's just your own internal rhythm, but just starting to create some sound with the thighs, and maybe moving that down to the knees or up to the hips. And I especially like to get onto the belly because that's a place that needs more love. And so just creating some sound, showing some love to that place. The chest is fun, the shoulders, the back, but just weaving in body percussion and tapping is a great way to get into the body really quickly too. So those I think would be good. I'd say another one, and I don't know, kind of getting into your body, but I think driving, using something called orientation. So orientation is just allowing your eyes to wander in your space, and really it's meant to just help you register that you're safe wherever you are. So maybe just noticing, I'm thinking about if you're driving, like, oh, those trees are green, and not feeling like you need to judge or label them, but just staying curious about where your eyes want to go, close to the road, on the road, right? But maybe noticing color, or noticing sensation, or putting the window down and noticing the wind, or noticing if you hear a dog barking or the other cars, and not labeling good, bad, but just just noticing what wants your attention.
And if somebody has totally missed the entire episode and didn't have a clue, but what would that provide for you?
Doing those practices?
These practices.
Yeah. Just getting into your body. I think that, and out of your head, I would say if you're in like a negative headspace, if you're feeling really busy, if you're feeling really overwhelmed, if there's a really strong emotion, again, not to push that emotion away, but, I'm thinking about if I'm angry, like, shaking with that anger and allowing yourself to move through it.
Yes, and to be in the present.
Definitely.
Because,
yes, thank you for saying that. It's very much about presence. Yeah. Being in grounding yourself in the present moment, because that's the only place we live.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, mic drop. Yeah, that's it. Oh my gosh. Well, Whitney, is there anything that we forgot to talk about, or you really wanted to impress upon the Megafest listener today?
Yeah. I really think that what I'm trying to get across with the things that I do is just that, like, you're enough and you're worthy as you are. And I think that has so many expressions. And I really believe that dance, that movement, that getting into the body through somatic healing practices, it allows us to really notice. Allows us to really notice what we're coming up against. And if we can just be with that discomfort and identify the inner critic or identify those voices that are telling us we can't, it makes them a lot smaller, and it makes us a lot more empowered to be who we are and to be authentic in our life. So I'd love to leave them with that, and I'd like to give an example because I am also famous for being wordy. So
You go, girl.
yeah, like I work with this a lot, and the dance and movement part of my work really sits at the beginning of everything else, right? You know, I think that it's someone comes in, they grow from the experience, you know, that branches off into, of course, going deeper with this journey in the context of the other things I do with human design and somatic coaching. But in the dance and movement aspect, everyone comes in uncomfortable, and everyone comes in awkward and feeling like, I don't dance. Why am I here? Can I even do this? What do I look like? Are people judging me? And if you can just be okay with those voices and move anyways, like, you can move through anything. Because when you're in an environment like that, when you're just allowing your body to move how it wants to move, you're coming up against perfectionism. You're coming up against the voice that's telling you you can't do it. What's coming up for me is just this idea that we have to like excel at everything, and we have to look a certain way to pursue the things that feel good or helpful to us. And it really unravels that, to just allow yourself to be seen and allow yourself to be vulnerable and allow yourself to just, again, move how you need to move. Ask your body what it needs, and just breaking through all the things that tell you you're not allowed to do that.
I'm so glad you're wordy, because that is the most beautiful description of what it is. And I feel like I am that person who, you know, as a child, you'd never find me on the dance floor. And, you know, I have forced myself to find joy in it. But I watched your videos on Instagram, and I felt myself like, oh, I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I could like release like that. And it really, like what you're saying is, it really is the antidote to perfectionism and to the chains that we put around ourselves, like are just fear in general. It's like breaking out of that, literally, you know, like figuratively and literally. And I just am so in awe that you're bringing this to more humans, because if we need this. The world needs this. So keep going. Yeah, get on that 2 to 5 year plan for your whatever the method is that you're doing. And, you know, let us all have an avidity for somatic healing.
Yeah. It felt like you were about to say, like, let us all be seen. And, like, that's what it is. It's just being seen and, like, letting it be authentic. Because in authenticity, like, we can choose the parts of us that we show, and we can choose the parts that we keep to ourselves. But building a comfort and confidence in when it feels appropriate, allowing the whole self to be present, like, that's life-changing. Because I think dance is for everyone, and when you see those videos, like, yeah, I have dance training, and so what I'm doing with my body might look different from the person next to me, but that's a part of it too. Is just we're actually working from what can be a really simple vocabulary, like shape, texture, direction. And so that's what I do too, is just prompting some of that simple guidance that says, like, yeah, how can you make a circle with your body? Like, that's dance too. And what part of that feels good to you? How do you make it feel good to you and make it feel nourishing to you? Because it doesn't have to look a certain way. And releasing is, I think, just letting it happen however it needs to. And if releasing is just accepting that what's there for you today is stillness, releasing into that stillness, because even when our body's not moving, it's moving. Like, we're breathing, our heart is beating. There's some micro movements that our body is making. So even if it's just that, or it's just making that a little bit bigger, like that counts.
Yes, and that is really worthiness, isn't it? It's like feeling good about taking up space or being okay with that, which I think a lot of us aren't.
Yeah,
Even
absolutely.
just taking up space. Yeah. Wow, dude, Whitney, you just like you were like up here, and then you brought it like way up here, and
Thank you.
that's just such a peak moment. Thank you. So beautiful. So you have some workshops coming up?
Yeah, I do. So I actually offer, so I'm in Grand Rapids, Michigan, so I don't know how many people out there in Grand Rapids, but I do teach monthly workshops, sometimes a couple of times a month, sometimes more than that in person. I also, it's called Mindful Movement, working title, is what I do in the context of these workshops. So that begins with some somatic stretching, which is really like self-guided stretching, with a little bit of input from me just to help you get into your body. That shifts into usually a short yoga flow that flows into some of the bioenergetic shaking and body percussion. And ultimately where we get is to freeform, conscious, ecstatic dance, just letting loose and letting what happens happen. It's a very slow build to that, but I do that virtually every other Tuesday. So that's an option too for folks that aren't local to West Michigan. And then I also have like a one-time workshop, one time for now, that I'm really excited about. So the inner critic came up in the context of our conversation, and I read this book. It's called Playing Big by Tara Moore, and it has an exercise from the Coaches Training Institute that's about identifying, naming, and basically like writing a character study of your inner critic, so that inner critic feels, or inner critics, right, however many we have, so that inner critic, what they say to you holds a little bit less weight because we've understood their motivations, we've created a character out of them. And so this workshop is intended to take it a step further, where we're actually embodying that inner critic. That's going to be with me doing obviously the movement and the dropping in, all the things that I do, but I'm hosting that with my husband, who is he's an actor and has been teaching acting and improv. We came from Atlanta, so he did that down there. So we're going to be weaving in that improv and like character study element, and then weaving movement and embodiment throughout, so that we can really talk about and just minimize fear of our inner critics.
So is that like you dance like you're the inner critic, or how does that work?
We'll see. We'll move like our inner critic. So my inner critic is very curmudgeon-y, and so I would then move in a really curmudgeon-y way and speak in a really grumpy type way. So not, I mean, I don't know, maybe it'll get to the point of dancing, but as I'm planning what's in my mind is more so like, how do they move? Like, how do they walk when they're talking to you? Like, how do they present themselves to you? How are they in relation to other people? How do they drink their coffee?
Improv, kind of
yeah,
improvising that.
Yeah. So that'll be really fun. That's going to likely be on June 10th, but you can just go to my website to check out any of this, because I'm always collaborating and coming up with new ideas. I'm actually working on a group coaching program right now too, that I hope to put out there by the end of May.
Okay. And what is that? Somatic healing?
Yep, that'll be a combination of movement, so intuitive movement, not necessarily dance, but just getting in touch with certain, I want to say parts of our body, but basically it's through the lens of human design. So in human design, we have 9 centers, and all of these 9 centers are responsible for different types of energy. So in embracing intuitive movement, like, how can we move with that energy? How can we use movement to, in a sense, like empty out for example, emotional energy, or empty out adrenal pressure. And so it'll be educational in the sense that we'll be learning about these different centers, and learning a little bit about human design, but also learning how to drop into that place, move from that place, and essentially like regulate ourselves in those different ways.
That is so needed.
Thank you.
I didn't even realize that we needed to calm our nervous systems. Like half of my problems probably would have gone away if I had known how to calm my nervous system. So thank you.
Yeah.
That's good work.
Thank you so much. But yeah, I have a lot of things coming up, and I would love to have any of your listeners as well as you join, because we work with a very unique blend of modalities that kind of just have to be experienced together.
Yes.
So.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Whitney, you are a lifelong dancer, and I'm sure there are a lot of songs you can get funky to. But what is that? Right now, what is that song that you were just feeling?
Yes.
You're going to blast it, and it's going to do it for you.
So I go through the whole range of emotions with this song. Like, I'm literally tearing up, and then I am like, banging on the hypothetical drums. But it's Rusted Root, Back to the Earth.
Awesome. Okay. I'm going to
check it out. It is so, I make a lot of playlists for the things that I'm involved in. I'll like gravitate to these certain songs and just put them on all the playlists for like 2 months, and that's my song right now. It's wonderful. It's a lot of fun. So highly recommend checking that out.
And that's sort of Back to the Earth. You seem like you've got a little bit of that hippie in you, and going back to the earth is so perfect for you.
Yeah, and like bonus points if you listen to it and just go ahead and dig your fingers into the soil.
Ooh, yeah. Good idea. Well, Whitney, thank you so much for Megafesting today.
Thank you for having me.
So much, and just laughed, and I really love the work that you're doing. The women who, the moms who can calm their nervous system and learn through your modalities how to be present with their children, with their loved ones. This is something that is going to span over generations. So
thank you.
Good job making the earth a better place.
Thank you. Yeah, dance with your kids. They love that stuff. I'd love to say where people can find me.
Oh, yes.
So my updated website is whitneydawn.com. So my first name, Whitney, Whitney, Dawn, DAWN.com. And then on Instagram, I'm at Whitney Dawn Pyles, Pyles. And you can just find me there.
Do all that in the show notes, too.
Great.
I know I'm like, write it down for me, right? That's I can hear it, and then I can see it, and I can just click on it and go right there.
Right there. Make it easy.
Yeah. Watch Whitney and her dance parties, and meet Sedona May, and create an avidity for this healing. Yeah.
Oh.
That's an alarm one. Thank you, Whitney.
Thank you, Megan.
All right. Well, there you have it. Such a great conversation. So many wonderful ideas from Whitney. And I really want to know, what were your takeaways? Please tell me. Hit Whitney up on socials, on her website. Let us know what touched your heart. What made you think? What made you go, yeah, I'm going to try that. And what happened when you tried it? Of course, you can always get more of Whitney at her virtual workshop every other Tuesday. And I just happen to know that one of the Tuesdays is June 6th. And then the next one would be June 20th. So that's how it goes every other. I think it's the first and third Tuesdays of the month. And she's got a group program coming up. For sure, Whitney can help you make some major changes in your life. So let's hit her up and give some avidity for Whitney. I love her website too, whitneydawn.com. You can't really get more perfect than that. That's just so good. And Megafesters, if you are liking what you're hearing, I know you are going to love this next thing that I'm coming up with, which is something I am all about after working at a cemetery where I saw death around me every day and seeing my children grow up so fast and feeling like I'm missing it. It was like the perfect Instapot, and what came out of it is this program that I'm creating for all of us to slow down time. Now, I know sometimes you might feel like you want to hit the eject button or even just press fast forward through like an annoying stage or a day that feels so long, or like the bedtime routine that just will not quit. But you know that they really do grow up so fast and we really are stressed. So how do we slow down time and make space for those magical moments? Well, this Megafesters is what we are talking about, practicing and embodying. So I will give you way more information about slow down time as it comes, but just know that is on the horizon. And if you are interested, you just let me know. Because this life, this one short, precious life that we are living, we could manifest or we could Megafest.